Connecting. 3 for the participants. Okay. Okay, well, welcome today to our webinar, which is being hosted by Everest and partnering with Seek. You've got Sharon Jeffries from Everest, who's in the career space and coaching training, and we've got Gemma Richardson from Seek, who is going to be providing us with quite a bit of up-to-date data on the Waikato job market and New Zealand as well. So welcome. I know we've still got some more participants coming through, so as you join us, welcome. We are recording this webinar so that you will be able to have access to it if you've missed anything or you sort of want further information. We'll be sharing the webinar, so I'll be talking around sort of the career support, and Gemma will be sharing with you some of the information around, as I say, the Waikato job market and New Zealand job market from a data perspective. And we will have a Q&A session as well, so please feel free to put questions in and use the chat function as well through our presentation. So Gemma, we've got 36 participants at the moment, and there's more coming through. So what I'd like to do is start with Gemma, who's going to provide you with a data snapshot. So I'll hand over to Gemma to take it away.
Hi everyone, for those who have never met me before, I'm Gemma Richardson. I'm a Customer Success Manager at Seek. I have been with Seek for just over 7 years. My role is to ensure that our clients are utilising Seek's products and services, and during this time of COVID, I've really kind of pivoted the role to really be looking from a candidate lens and a candidate focus. So hopefully the data that I'll be sharing with you today will be insightful, and also later on in the webinar we'll be talking about, of course, how you can utilize Seek itself, so how you can be searching on Seek, how you should be utilizing your profile as well. But we're going to start with some data. So I'm just going to share my screen with everyone. If you have any issues, please just write in the chat and Sharon will sort you out.
Right.
Okay, so I've got two, obviously, sections to what I'll be taking you through today. The first one's the market insights, and then it will be Seek resources and the profile. So let's get in and talk a little bit about the market. So from a Seek perspective, we do numerous types of data sources. So we're getting lots of reports and lots of different reports. So there's a few things to keep in mind when I'm taking you through the data at the moment. So the first part of the data is from our BNZ report. So this is a report which is a joint venture with BNZ economists using Seek data. So this is the newest up-to-date report that I'll be taking you through first of all. The second part of the insight data I'll be taking you through is our Seek Snapshot data. So what's happened is, usually in the past, when you look at Seek trends, we go from year versus year. So we'll look at what's happened in, say, May 2019 versus May 2020. So that's how we usually do our trends. But because of COVID, and it's been obviously so unprecedented, we've actually started to shift some of the snapshots and data we're taking to market. Because everyone's saying, well, what's happening now? Tell us what's happening now. So we were at our low point in April. So of course, the jobs on our platform reduced dramatically in the first week of April. It was actually down 75% from the year previous. So we've gone from there and got an April average, and we're showing you stats from that April average to just give you a bit of an idea of how the economy and how the market is shifting from that time. So from April moving forward, and we're doing 2-week snapshots as we go. I should be getting a new snapshot next week, and what I will do as well, I will send that over to Sharon. So I'll be talking through the snapshot today, but we'll make sure that you get an updated snapshot as well. Okay, so we'll keep that in mind. All right, so let's start talking about the data. So with the economic statistics being shaken by COVID-19, it's really important to look at them in level terms, and Seek.co.nz kind of provides a really good example of this. So what we've seen in terms of posting behaviour has been really encouraging. So we've seen a jump of ads on our platform of 72.3% in May. So that's from the April low point. So from April low point to now, we've seen a jump and increase of roles by 72.3%. Of course, you know, this May and this kind of bounce back in May is still a far cry from the roles previously
Mm.
before the virus. Okay, so you got to really keep that in mind. So if we compare it with May 2019 to now, it's down 58.2%. So that kind of puts things a little bit in the perspective. So while no region or industry has been immune to the broad lurches in advertising over recent months, there has been some aspects worth mentioning at the margin. So based on monthly and annual rates of change, at least, the main cities were lagging behind most other areas of the country, if I'm being perfectly frank. And you can see that from the regional trends in front of you right there. So that's kind of giving you that month on month. While hospitality and tourism was clearly was one of the industries that was clearly bounced, again, we need to put that in a Waikato perspective. So we need to understand that, you know, we've had numerous companies been strongly offended in the Waikato. So when I do talk to tourism and hospitality with this stats, remember I'm talking New Zealand wide in that aspect. And remember, it's coming off a very low point. So it's coming off a very low point in April moving forward. So again, we need to kind of keep that in perspective. Overall, we have started seeing things shifting in a positive direction in May. So hopefully we have started, you know, to continue to see this recovery into June already. So again, some even more positive signs going into June. Now we're down at level 1 since, you know, 8th of June, the restrictions were lifted. However, with the highly expensive kind of government wage subsidy kind of scheme being scaled back already, businesses are really going to have a broad focus on kind of the right staffing sizes. So they're really going to be looking at their staffing levels with a view to the new future. So, you know, rather than embarking on kind of hiring surges, we're expecting to kind of see, you know, the recovery slowly but surely. So we're not expecting to see a huge surge. So you need to kind of keep that in mind. So now let's go and have a look at our snapshot. So this is the snapshot, and we're looking at the end of May here. So it's talking kind of about kind of a slowly improving market here. So in the fortnight ending 31st of May, we saw an increase of job advertisings by around 92.7% compared to the average in April. Like I said, whilst it looks like a big number, you know, we still need to compare it to relatively to last year. But in the last 2 weeks, we have seen a growth in the retail and consumer product sector. That's jumped by almost 4 times the volume in April average. This makes perfect sense because during the lockdown and in April, this industry was strongly affected. So of course, when we're going to start seeing surges of roles or an increase in roles, it makes sense. We're now actually starting to see roles such as retail assistants, store managers and merchandisers back on platform. Again, really, really positive. The growth's actually sitting at around 174% over the last couple of weeks, and they do make up about 22% of the new opportunities on Seek as a whole. So again, there's some really promising signs here. Also some promising signs in the regions. So really seeing volume growth every fortnight moving forward. So if we look at these next two kind of data sets in front of you, what we've done is we've actually put certain roles together. So we actually are looking at consumer products. We've also, consumer services, and this is including your admin, office support, hospo, sales, retail, customer products, real estate, property, sport and rec, call center, customer service, and arts and media sector. So we've put them together. Obviously, these were really hard hit by the restrictions, so that's why you're kind of seeing that uptick. Other sectors showing really positive signs are the public sectors. Again, that's increased around 95%, and they're making about 24% of our new jobs on platform. Construction, again, increasing, and they're making around 21% of all ads on site. Industrial, and also those professional services. So I'll break those down, what I mean by kind of each sector breakdown. So you're looking at the screens in front of you. So I've said consumer services. I've already taken you through that. That's more like your admin, office, retail, sales, contact center. Public sector. This is comprising of education, healthcare, medical, community services, development, and government and defence. Construction, what I mean by construction here is your trades and services, construction, engineering, design and architecture. And then your professional services, so that's your accounting, HR, recruitment, marketing, banking, finance, legal, tech, consulting, ICT, and insurance. And then industrial is comprised of your manufacturing, transport, logistics, farming, mining, and resources and energy. So that just gives you a bit of an idea of the sectors and how we put them together. So now let's go into another snapshot here. So this is talking about where are the jobs. This is looking at New Zealand in general, and I'll jump into the Waikato really quickly. So where are we seeing roles on average? So we're looking at your trades, your ICT, your healthcare, your manufacturing, and your construction. When we actually start looking at the Waikato as a whole, so we're kind of versus, this is year on year now, this is kind of what we've been seeing. So we're seeing kind of job ad growth year on year down by 11.4%. Not a crazy amount considering what's happening, but obviously in the last few months that's highly strongly affected how many ads being posted in the area. Salary growth, again this is year on year, and then we're looking at the contribution to the total job ad growth. So we're seeing an increase obviously in your engineering, manufacturing, sell, retail, admin, trades and accounting over the year. When I've actually gone in and looked at I'm trying to get as much information as possible in terms of the Waikato, what's happening now in the shorter term. So I've looked at ads that have been posted from the 25th of May to the 8th of June. And what I'm seeing is week on week an improvement of roles in the area. So positive signs, every week on week, you're getting more roles within the Waikato. And where are we seeing these jobs? So these are the main drivers in your market right now. So we've got your trades and services really driving the market, healthcare, construction and architecture, engineering and retail. We've seen an increase of roles, of course, in your admin as well. So we're seeing really good growth in admin and manufacturing, and we're still seeing roles in your ICT, sales, accounting, and community services and development. So there's where we're seeing the really driving of the roles currently within the Waikato. Okay, so that's it in terms of the data that I have to talk you through. And what I will do is, obviously, you're going to see these slides, but I'll make sure that I get them on one pages as well and send them to Sharon to get out to you.
Great, thank you. We have had a question through Gemma, which is from somebody that's overseas, and they're really actually wanting to know about the job market for themselves as someone that's living outside of New Zealand in a project management sort of position. So looking at the possibility of being hired and having applications through New Zealand companies. So could you put a little glimpse on that and what that's like from SEEK's perspective?
It's going to be difficult. It's at the moment our borders are closed, so we have to be completely open and honest about what's really happening within our market. We have roles that were sitting before COVID hit, so they were sitting with immigration, and actually what immigration have done, they've gone back out and said, hey, to companies, you need to actually go back out to your market and try and find a New Zealander for this role.
Yes.
Also, when you turn it and think of it on its head, and what recruiters are doing and hirers are doing, they're trying to get quality candidates into their roles as quickly as possible. And because of that speed, they will be looking within New Zealand for that talent. And there is a lot of talent out in the market right now due to redundancies, due to people being, furloughed, and contracts coming to an end. So there's a lot of candidates out there in the market. So it's a really difficult time right now for offshore candidates trying to get into the country. So that's kind of what I would be saying to you right now. Right now, especially with all the border controls and everything, it's going to be very difficult for you to get in to New Zealand currently for the job.
Yes, and I would agree with that. And you can't often get a work visa until you've got a job offer, and we're going to be using New Zealanders for those roles because of COVID-19 and redundancies. Gemma, we've had a question through the chat line from Rajith. He says, do you have any statistics with regard to the success rate of applicants through SEEK? So in the sense of how many people who apply through SEEK actually get jobs?
I don't know that specifically, but let me go back and try and get some statistics on
Okay.
that. What I can talk to you about application rates at the moment, though, they are very high. So there's a high volume of candidates applying for roles. So you have certain recruiters struggling. So they'll have a high volume, and what they'll be doing is this is when they might be asking questions in regards to your skill sets, but also your work visa status. So that
Yep.
again alludes to the first question. They're trying to scan people out as efficiently as possible.
Yep.
But we are the most visited job site in New Zealand. And again, putting the best foot forward and getting those roles. I'll have to try and look at those stats. It's quite difficult following the businesses to the end of placement, but I do have some placement data, and I'll find it for you, and I will make sure it's in the follow-up email for you.
Great. So Rajith, we'll do that in a follow-up format. We've also had Brenda, who's living in Canada, and she's a New Zealand permanent resident. So she's currently looking for employment. So probably not as difficult, Brenda, but because you've got permanent residency, but you're still not on the ground here. So it would be having to come back and go through self-isolation to gain employability in New Zealand, unless you've already got existing networks, I would say, or an employment record in New Zealand that you can leverage against those networks and previous experience.
And it
Would you
depends on
agree
your
with that?
skill set. Yeah, I completely
Yeah,
agree. So leverage your network. So, talk to, put your feelers out in the market already through your networks that you're looking for work.
yeah,
Find out what's happening. There's definitely been an increase of contract roles, temp roles, and
yeah,
project roles on our platform. And this is due to what's happening. So there's going to be less permanency of role out there in the market. So
yeah,
again, it's going to be slower process. You might be looking for that more permanent position. So it's about researching. So do your research, find out who's hiring, get your feelers out, really leverage your networking,
yeah.
because once you're in, you've got that 2 week. But if you know it's a slower process to get into a job,
Yeah.
then they might be more open to have those discussions with you.
Brilliant. We've also had a question from someone is from Hanley is how popular is the new work from home option on Seek?
It's actually quite popular. It's also over the last couple of weeks as well. It's the top 3 keyword search. So
Yeah,
again, it is popular.
great.
I did a little search this morning, actually. I've been doing webinars all day, and
Yeah,
there was over 1,000 roles, I think, when I clicked on the work from home, and when I actually just typed in work from home in a keyword search, that showed up. So even
yeah,
going on the keyword functionality should source all those roles. So it's showing you a wealth of roles on platform with the work from home.
yeah.
Things are different now. People are starting to really think about where we're working. We still have about 2 in 5 people in New Zealand working from home currently. You
Yeah,
know,
that's quite a lot.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
quite a lot.
I've also had a question from Ajith asking, do you know how many of the jobs on Advertise and Seek are real? So how many of them actually end up recruiting someone or anyone at all? So I'll hand that over to you, Gemma.
So every role on Seek should be a true role. We also keep them up for 30 days, and we won't extend that either. So we're not extending roles. So you should get a bit of more of a true reflection on market.
Mhm.
Um, Again, it depends on what's happening with the recruiter. So again, it's really looking into the role, the information that they're giving you. So always go into the ad and really get as much information from the ad as you can.
Yeah,
When there's a really vague ad, you want to be looking for ads with more specifics.
yes,
They give you more information to apply for, and there's going to be a role at the end of that. Um, Again, you might see a role on the platform, and you might want to call them to get more information.
yeah,
It's depending how you want to do that, but every role that is placed on Seek should be a true role, or there
yeah,
should be roles in the pipeline for them to
yeah.
be placing talent. So what they're doing is, from a recruiter perspective, they're trying to find talent to place you into these roles that they'll be having in the pipeline as well.
Great, thank you. And Gagan's asked if the options for a recent graduated student who's got completing his master's, there are opportunities to get a job as opposed to residents who are applying for those jobs. Is there a preference for residents over temporary visa holders? Um, and I would say
I Yeah,
depends
go
on
on.
the
You
market
Yeah, it depends
and
on the market.
skills. Yeah, it's really going to depend on the market and the skills and where the master's is as well, isn't it, Gemma?
Yeah, but it also just depends how long the role is for. If it's a
Yeah,
short contract term role, there
yeah,
would be no reason for them
yeah,
to turn more to the permanency of the visa status.
yeah,
So in that sense,
yeah.
again, it's about the role, what you're talking to, but
Yeah.
that's what I'd be. thing.
Brilliant. We've also had a question from Bobby, who is saying their area expertise has literally disappeared in the sense of international student market, and how you rework your CV to transferable skills. So again, I'll cover a little bit of that. And it's really just about taking out the jargon and the language that you're using in your whatever world, and talking about building relationships, working with diversity, organizing, planning, stakeholder engagement, those kind of things. So you're matching your skills to that, and we'll be able to help with that a little bit. We've had another question saying, would my application for submission be entertained by employers, since I'm not currently in New Zealand? So if I'm applying for a job through Seek, would employers likely to consider that, or let me move if the position became available and I was the right candidate? Do you have information on that?
Again, it's all dependent on the recruiter.
Yeah.
So it's all dependent on the recruiter. So Brenda, you are the one in Canada, yes. Right? So again, it's having those discussions. Maybe like we've already spoken to before. I think first of all, leverage those networks and get a bit of an idea of what's happening and the types of jobs that you want to apply for, and then once you've had those discussions, you can get more of an idea of what will happen. They will entertain you for a certain extent, but a lot of the time recruiters are wanting the right person into a job as quickly as possible. And because you are in Canada and you'll have to do the 2-week kind of lockdown, it's going to be harder for them to be looking at your details and your information when you apply.
Yeah. Great. And they've just got some other questions here too on our Q&A. So they've said, hi, I found some companies advertise a role, but they've already have an internal candidate in mind. So they're not really seriously looking. So Ray, I would just say that yes, they are. That's why they placed an ad, but it's always very hard to compete against an internal candidate who has knowledge of the company, skills required, already has relationships. So it's about not being afraid to connect with that company, especially if there's a name, and ask those kind of questions. So you're gathering more information. And sometimes you've got to throw your hat in the ring, as I say, so that you can be considered as a candidate for those type of roles. But that's really hard when you've got internal candidates to go against. Also asking is tips for recent graduates with limited experience. So I might cover that when I move into my section as well. And again, projects coming to the Waikato that may help rising the employability rates. There are some projects that are coming through, next steps in our shovel-ready projects working with government. So it's just about keeping up to date on what's on the market, and we'll do that through our emails and through Everest as well. And Seek are pretty good at advertising jobs and roles and things that are happening in each of the regions, aren't they?
Yeah, and again, it's all about researching. So go in, research, keep market tracking. You can, if you're looking for specific roles on Seek as well, you can actually do saved searches. So if you kind of want to get a bit of a gauge of what's going on in your market and in terms of the types of roles, types of businesses that are posting, just do some saved searches. And every morning, if any roles fall into that criteria, you get an email about it. It's called Job Mail. So it's a saved search. It's like the heart shape. So sometimes doing that helps getting a bit of market. And check on the budget, like where are they spending money, what's happening, keep on top of the news. You need to be doing that right now in this market climate. We need to be doing as much research, and we need to know as much as possible. Like we say, knowledge is power, and it really is in terms of job seeking right now.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay. Is there any other final questions for Gemma regarding the Seek data or Seek sort of support that they've got on their website? If not, answer as we go along, and we'll come to that near the end. And if we don't have time, we will respond to you separately following this webinar, if that's all right. I'm now going to move across to my presentation, if that's all right. So I'll just thank you, Gemma, for doing that. And I'm just going to share my screen. So we're looking at, here we go. The most starting point here is your CV and cover letter. So they really need to be targeted to roles. So you really need to be making sure that you're taking the job that you've seen on Seek and making sure that you've got the skills and you're highlighting those skills to the job requirements, that you've got relevant experience, that your CV language is appropriate as well. We see a lot of CVs where you're using acronyms or you're using language that might be set to an education sector or government sector or a building sector. So if you're looking at transferability of skills, it's really important that you simplify the language and make sure that your CV is reflecting that, and do a self-assessment. So what's in your toolkit that you are actually offering and what matches that particular job role. And transferable skills, I mean, there's a lot of language around this and it can cause a lot of confusion for people as to what that means. They're the basic skills that you use every day. So in the sense of working with international students, with that, you're going to need to be highlighting your ability to communicate across diverse sort of cultures and age groups and stakeholders, because you're going to be having conversations with students, you're going to be having conversations with agents, you're going to be having conversations with academics. It could be things like attention to detail. If you're working in administration, you're very good at systems and processing, and you've lost your role, then you might work very well in a process or production where you've got to make sure that you're doing something to a quality standard and it's requiring attention to detail. So it's just about drilling down and making sure it's the tasks and those jobs that you've got that are transferable to those different industries. And certainly a careers person or somebody that's not up in the know in the recruitment phase would be able to actually quickly identify what those transferable skills are. The other thing that's really important is your layout of your CV. Certainly working with Everest and the recruitment team and in that career space, we see a multitude of CVs and some of them are just very, very busy. And also, they haven't got enough white space or bullet points. So a CV reader needs resting eye space so they can move quickly through your CV and ascertain, important information. They also need to have a sort of a quick, easy way, because they may have software or AI that's scanning your CV and cover letter, and it needs to quickly move through that. So if you've got lots of columns or lots of pictures or color or tables, that stops that process for the machinery and the robotics to be scanning through, and it can often how you end up in the no pile. So wherever possible, keep it simple so it's quick to update. You use bullet points and white space and relevant headings and keep consistency and stay away from a lot of color and graphics. Put relevant information in only, so we don't need to have a 7-page CV. I think at Everest, I think our highest count was a 23-page CV, and that was quite recently. We're not going to read it. It needs to be 2 or 3 pages. You can provide further information at a later date. And your cover letter is important to put in other things that might draw the CV reader or the recruiter to your application and to invite you to interview or to have a telephone screening. So relevant information is things like industry experience, qualifications, volunteering, all that information that's going to be helpful. Also make sure your typeface is quite fresh and important. So they usually say, don't use Times Roman, it's kind of a dated font. So you want to be using Calibri or a Verdando or something that's soft and round that's going to invite the eye and the CV reader to read that as well. We've had a couple of questions come up around your presentation, Gemma. So what I'll do is I'll save those to the end because they're just popping up now. Michael, there are some effective templates available for CVs. So Seek, you have got a really good resource tool online that are effective as well. So does Career Services, and so does Everest. So you'll find they're really quite simple and plain, and you could use those as well. So, check out on Seek's website, and if not, check out Career Services or come through to myself or Everest as well. The next thing that's quite important in the job search mode is your job search strategy. So if we go through to that, you've got to use different avenues. So you've got to not just be sitting on Seek, even though that's where the majority of our jobs are. And sorry, Gemma, I've added Trade Me there as well. You need to just be keeping an eye on that. Seek is our predominant sort of I suppose, job forum in the website area for New Zealand employers to post ads. You need to also be with recruitment agencies, but target those recruitment agencies for specific industries. You'll find if you're working maybe in IT, there's specific areas or recruiters that will look after that area. If you're in engineering or sciences, there's particular technical recruiters that'll be there. And like Everest, more in that executive and professional area jobs, we're recruiting in that. And then you've got other ones for areas for admin or production and processing and the trades and the medical profession. So target particular agencies that are filling jobs and roles in your area. And Seek is a great tool for you to be able to find out the recruitment agencies that are with those different streams of jobs as well. Use LinkedIn. It's really, really helpful for you to be able to, sorry, I've just lost, if you lost my job there. Sorry, playing around with it. Does it come up? It's great for networking. It's great for finding out about companies. It's great for asking questions or connecting to people that are in particular jobs or roles and industries for you. And most New Zealanders want to connect and support people, in the job market and industry. So it's a great way for you to connect and ask questions. Treat it as professional Facebook. Really important that you're on LinkedIn and that again, it's professional and it's reflecting your CV and your experience. Use your existing networks and contacts. That's people like family, coaches, friends, previous employers, colleagues. In New Zealand, you've only got to contact 2 people and you're in a sort of a position of having somebody in a company or in a role that can provide you with information and provide you with a contact into that industry. And be clear on the skills that you're offering. It's the first question any potential contact or employer or recruiter is going to ask you. It's like, tell me about yourself. What are you offering? What are your skills? What are you looking for? You need to have a really good short summary of what you're good, and often that may be your transferable skills. It could be really good at improving systems or, finding the faults or building those client relationships or communicating across different networks. So you'll be really clear about what those skills are and have 2 or 3 of them. The other thing in your job search strategies is be really professional. Use your manners. Thank people for contacts. Thank people for their time. Follow up, with emails or telephone calls to let your referees or your contacts know how you're going. Manners go a long way in the sense of creating a professional image and how you're going to treat clients or colleagues or be in that profession as well. The other thing I really like is have a hit list. It's a list that you hold of companies that you like, that you might want to work for, or that have interested you over your time and your years, and find out, sort of who's in there through LinkedIn or through your contacts, so that you've got a connection and you've got a way to start building your job search strategies through that. The other area that works really well is to have some informational interviews and network. So informational interviews are where you connect with people. You don't ask for a job, but you ask for information, and you take a little bit of their time and you ask about, where the gaps are, where their hot spots are, where they think they might be growing, what skills are they looking for in their industry, how did they get into their industry, and ask if they would recommend anyone else that you could connect to. We hire people and we connect with people through relationships. So it's a great way to connect, build relationships, and network. And network can be as simple as just, chatting to people on the bus, going to a LinkedIn local event, going off and having a coffee with somebody and inquiring about, their role in their day as well. The other important thing is check your social media presence as well. Do a Google search and make sure that your Facebook is locked down or on privacy, and that your LinkedIn is up to date and you've got your job search button turned on. Make sure your Seek profile is updated as well. That's something really important for you to be able to share jobs and be able to, for Seek to be able to sort of market and get jobs through to you, and what's happening in the industry as well. The other area finally that I want to just talk about is the services that Everest can provide, is that we do have a career support section in our business. We do provide you with help with your CV and cover letter. We also review and develop CVs. We do interview coaching, provide mock interviews. We do LinkedIn review and support, and do provide career coaching, career pathway planning. We have a recruitment section as well, where we can provide services for our corporate clients and do recruitment, and use Seek for the advertising of that. And we've got a training and coaching section and HR support as well. So we've got a variety of services that we can sort of provide support to clients and people in the industry. And we do use Seek's data to keep ourselves up to date. So any questions from what we've covered so far, or any other questions for Gemma? I know there was another one in the questions and answers that has now been taken off. Sorry, Emma, it was about some Seek data, but I'll try and forward that through to you if they don't have the question again.
Okay.
So any other questions or sort of comments that we can help you with or share? I'll just give you a minute or two. And Gemma, for you, sort of any summary that I can hand over to you.
Yeah, I'm just saying I've just been answering the questions while you were speaking, Sharon.
Great.
So they should all be up to date now,
Excellent.
the Q&A. But no, just to reiterate on from what Sharon was saying, definitely leveraging your networks. One thing I would say as well, when you're writing your CV, is just ensuring that you have your contact details on there, and that the contact details are up to date and they're not placed in the header. Because what happens is, when you're applying for jobs to employers, they'll be parsing all that information and going into their own database. And when you're in their database, they'll be trying to find people with certain skill sets, certain information, your contact details. So to make their life easier, ensure that you have up-to-date contact details in the main area of your CV, and do not touch the headers, because you can't parse any of that key detail and key information.
Great, thank you, Jim. That was a great tip, and often it's overlooked as well, because people don't realize. Yeah, just again about your layout of your CV, how important it can be in the job search mode, in the sense of people coming through. Can you explain what parsing is?
Yeah, sure. So parsing is a technology. So you'll have your CV, for example, and what the parsing technology does, it puts it into a big blurb. So the parsing technology is trying to find out specific information. So for example, it might be trying to pull out your email address or your phone number, and it goes through all the text. So it'll put your CV into a big blurb, and then it'll go through all that text, and then it'll pull out all that information, and then we can put it into somewhere different. So it might pre-populate the databases, the tracking systems of your employers. So that's what parsing technology is. And in Seek, we do use a lot of parsing technology. So whenever an ad is posted, we will parse all that detail and all that information. When you are your profile, your CV, we're parsing all that information, so we can place the key details into other sections that are easier to be found.
Great, thank you, Gemma.
Oh, photos on CV.
Yes.
What do you think on?
Yeah, our philosophy at Everest and Rose is no. It allows people to prejudge you based on what you look like, your gender, your cultural identity. And we've had some HR people with some real experience just come and say no. Yeah, your LinkedIn, yes, LinkedIn, but they've already had your CV usually by that stage, and then they'll go and they're interested in, and they'll go to your LinkedIn just to consolidate that your CV is sort of creating a picture of who you are. So CVs with photos, no, please just get your skills and get your strengths and get your experience and qualifications across, so you're inviting them then to meet you. And
yeah, it's that unconscious bias, isn't it?
Absolutely, and it is there, so working around that. Another question is, should my LinkedIn profile just be a duplicate of my CV? Again, from us, no, it should be a short summary. We don't want to just be copying and pasting. You want to have a really good little elevator script or a statement and a profile that's quite succinct, and just key points in your jobs, maybe more achievement focused than a job list of your skills skills and responsibilities because you have a skills section. So it's really just a synopsis or a short summary of your CV to consolidate that, yes, you've worked in those roles or for those industries, and you've got some relevant experience as well. Another question, is there a cost to CV and cover letter review? When you're working with Everest, yes, there is. And I can certainly, if you'd like to email in, provide you with a list of that, of what we do. So it's pretty reasonable, I think. Any other questions or sort of chats that we've got? Chats, nothing there, Q&As. Any final comments from you, Gemma, around sort of the snapshot of the data and sort of, you know, what that's meaning for our job market in the Waikato?
I just think that in terms of the data and trends, it's right now we're at a time that's very unpredictable. So I think as a job seeker, we need to kind of really keep that in mind, and really keep a track on what's happening and where those jobs are coming from, because it's going to be shifting month on month moving forward. So it's just being aware of that. And I think it's knowing the industry that you're in, and kind of really researching into that. If you're looking to obviously change industry, if you've been really strongly affected, and again, that's where Sharon's transferable skills comes in, and that's when you would pivot. Yeah.
Yep. And the other thing I would reiterate with Gemma is like looking at where the key jobs are and start targeting those markets, because even if it's in the trades, there's admin roles there, or there's accounting roles, or there could be sales and marketing roles. So that's where your transferability of skills can come through. And it's also about being prepared to take temporary work, being prepared to take contract work if it's required. As a stopgap, it's sort of what that gig economy that the world of work has talked about for quite a while. We're now experiencing that post-COVID-19. While people and companies get themselves up to speed with budgets and where their needs are going to be in 3, 6, and 12 months' times as well. Just a few more questions too. We've got our Everest meeting with candidates at the moment where there is no specific role that the candidate is interested in. Yes, we are, just to consolidate, and we've got a database so that you may have specific skills where we might be able to match you with a client or a market or a need. So it's kind of more a meet and greet, and being able to just look at where the skills are and be able to sort of either put you into our database so when recruitment opportunities do come, you're there, or be able to sort of help you and support you into another direction. We got another question. I'm not in the Waikato. Can you still help me with my CV development? Certainly can, with the help of Zoom and telephones and email. Well versed to being able to do that as well. Oh, another question. Can we see cover letters addressed to whom it may concern? What are your thoughts? You just want to kind of throw it into the bin, really, don't you? From my perspective,
But if your name's not on there.
Yep. Absolutely. It's really easy to find a name, or often there's a name on an ad. Use it or do a little bit of research. You can phone the company. You can email and ask who the hiring manager is, or if there's an HR manager, you know, you're interested in the job. If they're not, there's a few you do see job ads where there's just no information, it's apply seek, then you're going to have to be dear sir or madam, and address it to the hiring manager if you can. But to whom it may concern is really old-fashioned, so you start to date yourself when you're using that kind of language as well. And your thoughts, Gemma?
Yeah, what I'd say is sometimes when you don't have the name and you're trying to be as polite as possible, sometimes you will have that to whom it may concern. What I would be saying is I had a friend of mine, a recruiter, who wrote on his LinkedIn recently that he'd received so many cover letters, and the issue were that they were copying and pasting so he could see different fonts. They were addressing the cover letter to the completely wrong name. His name was Rob, and they weren't addressing it to Rob. They were addressing it to the completely wrong role, so they weren't tailoring their cover letter. So you want to put your best foot forward, and you want to stand out in a really crowded market, right? But don't stand out for the wrong reason.
Yes, well said, Gemma. Absolutely. We've also had another letter saying, I'm applying for lots of roles, just any. Is that effective? We call that the spray gun effect, and no, it's not.
It's spray
You've
and
got to,
pray.
it's spray and pray, and I've met a lot of people that I've applied for like 250 jobs, and I've had like 2 telephone interviews. It's not effective. You've got to really look at each job, pull out keywords that they might be using in their job ad, make sure it's in your cover letter and CV, use their language, do those things like try to connect with them beforehand and follow up. We had another question is, if I don't hear, should I follow up? Yes, put it into your calendar. It shows you're keen, you're interested. Most people won't. They hide behind technology now of Seek and their laptops just to go apply and figure they're going to be contacted. You may not. So, if you follow up, you're showing you're proactive, you're showing you're keen and you're interested. Again, you just don't want to stalk. So you want me ringing every day and contacting them, but have a time frame that you can do that. So yes, if you haven't got a response, please connect with them as well. Um, uh, Another question for you, Jim, and they might be able to answer this. It says, if I could get feedback from Seek every time the employers made their decisions, most of the reasons I've been declined was my right to work in New Zealand did not match the employer's preferences. I guess my CV cannot pass the ATS yet. I'm holding open work visa for 3 years. Do you have suggestions?
So I think that means, so when you're applying for jobs, we call it role requirements. So hirers might be asking for specific role requirements, and when it gets to that visa status, it's kind of like a yes or a no, and you may need to type more detail. What I'd be saying is here, because you have a more unique visa status, you may have to say yes and then give more detail, and then you would get through that initial stage.
Yeah.
So they're not right at that point. They won't be looking at further details. They're just looking at what you answered. So if you've answered no and then wrote more detail, they will not potentially look at that, and they will scan you out. So ensure that you're saying that yes, you do have the right, but give more context around it, and just really put that best foot forward, because you do have the right to work. So don't say no and explain
Yes.
why you do. Say yes and then explain, because then you will get through that section.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I would be suggesting.
Absolutely, I would agree with that too, Gemma. Another question is, was there a reasonable time before you follow up on an application? Usually I like to follow up on the closing date if you have not heard, just to ensure they've got your application. I have heard of people that things have completely disappeared into the black abyss of the web, of the websites. So, do follow if you haven't had a clarification. If you had, I would usually give them a few days and then follow up, and then sort of 2 to 5 days really, just to follow up, and then that conversation will lead to what the time frame might be for your next follow up as well. Another question, I've heard that some countries there's removal of all gender or culture indicators in CV. Is this happening in New Zealand? Yes, it is. You're not required to put anything around your gender, your birth date, marital status, health, any of those. So please don't. If you do, it shows you're not up to speed with our employment requirements in New Zealand as well. And that's, again, those culture requirements. Make sure that's not through your CV as well. It's the languaging that you might be using. Another question here. I'm a recruiter for not-for-profit and disability sector and find it very frustrating. People who use the spray technique and never once use the word disability in either cover letter or CV. It's a prime example from a recruiter. So it's about targeting it. So often in the disability sector, they're looking for lived experience or understanding. So, match your CV to the industry and the role that you're looking at as well. Thank you, Joanne, for that.
And it's keywords. Yeah, it's definitely those keywords.
Yeah.
And look at the ad. So when you look at the ad, look at the type of language that they're using, and kind of use that terminology and that language in your cover letter, because this is what they're looking for. And when you go and apply for jobs, they want you to do the research. They want you to understand about the company. So if you're applying for this not-for-profit in the disability sector and you're not even mentioning it once, then why should they look at you? You're not. You're just kind of. You're not giving an indicator that you are truly wanting to be with that company. And when you are spraying and praying, you're just not doing your due diligence either. So this is when all the mistakes come in, the grammar. You need to be trying to tailor as much as you can for each role, and the more considered you are about applying, the more likely you probably are to go further down the stages, because you're giving more detail, you're giving more consistency, and this is what the recruiters and hiring managers are looking for.
Absolutely. Another question too, they've had someone say that they've either contacting other companies once they've advertised on Seek, that they've got automated responses. So several times they've approached an organization after 2 weeks, the closing date, and advised firmly that they will be in contact, do not contact the HR department. Some people, yes, organizations will do that, and it probably means that, that they already have their selection process in place and they haven't got the time to afford that. And you really probably just need to move on and thank them. Again, that's where your professionalism needs to come through, and thank them. You may be able to offer, ask for feedback around your application in comparison to the other candidates. And some companies will do that.
And just remember,
Yeah,
at this time, they're getting extremely high volumes of candidates applying for roles right now.
yes,
So their candidate management, they're trying their best, and they're going to be contacting as quickly as they can, because we understand completely that it's one of your major bugbears. You don't know where you sit.
yeah, yeah,
But if that has happened and they send that email, they're not doing it. If they could call every single candidate and have a conversation, they would, right?
yeah,
But it is about time, and a lot of the time they're so busy and there's so
yeah,
much high volume. So just be aware of that,
absolutely.
and they're being empathetic on their side. Just
Yeah,
again giving them some empathy as well, and understanding
yeah,
that they're
yeah.
working with extremely high volume rates.
Absolutely. And if they can't contact, then don't be afraid to use your other job search strategies like LinkedIn to connect with somebody there and just, build a relationship, or just inquire about the role and say, hey, look, you'd applied. And when they're ready, be happy to have some feedback. So you're still being professional, but still networking and leveraging yourself as well.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, definitely.
Another
And
question
I've
here
just got
around,
a
yep. Sorry, Jen, I just had one
I'm just
question here
saying
for
I've got a
Seek. Do you have time to answer that,
yeah,
or you got
cool.
to go? It's about what's
No,
the
no, I'm just saying because I had some slides.
Oh, good. Sorry, I was good. It's not like your application will progress message with Seek now. So do they still do that?
Yeah, they do. So it depends on the company itself. So they can tick it on or take it off.
Yeah,
But what happens is, if they put you into a certain bucket in their candidate management system in Seek,
yeah,
to not suitable, within 2 days, you should get that email. We've created that just so you're aware of where you are sitting.
yeah,
Again, we want to ensure that you know where you are in the process. So we are still doing that. Another thing that we have is when you might see a candidate badge when you're looking at roles, saying that you're probably a good fit for this role. You might be a strong applicant. I'll explain what that means if you ever see those badges on Seek. We're
yeah,
looking at the ad itself. We're also looking at your detail and information, and we've been looking at the data of behavior of hirers. So the potential, who they are shortlisting for certain types of roles. So we've got over millions and millions of data sets that we're using for this strong applicant badge. So when you see the strong applicant badge on a role, we're just saying to you, due to all our data, we're predicting you're probably a bit more likely to move forward into to being a shortlist for that job. So if you ever
yeah,
see that as well, just be aware that's using our AI technology.
yeah. Brilliant. Thank you. And you had some more slides, did you say?
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly, yeah. I've got
I'll
some
stop
like
sharing.
Seek specific slides.
There you go.
Yeah, so I just wanted to make sure you're aware quickly of what also we offer from a Seek perspective. So straight away, I want you to be aware that we do have a Seek candidate hub. This has been created directly for yourselves, job seekers, due to COVID-19. So it's a centralized location of sources and information, advice, and support. You can get to it on your mobile phone as well. So it's on your mobile phone on the Seek site. And you can find it on the main site, kind of on a kind of panel. And what we've done is we've kind of put all the information into 3 different sectors. So depending where you're sitting. So the 3 primary areas we have are finding work. So this is helping candidates for right now and showcasing latest data, resources, content, what you need to know. There's job loss support information there as well. So this is a lot of information with supportive information and resources for those who have been made redundant, lost their jobs, or are worried they may lose their roles. And then we have working differently. So this is highlighting kind of tangible advice about working from home. And a lot of our lives have been changed completely due to COVID-19 in numerous ways. wise. So this is all consolidated in there. You can also find all our templates in that one location. So our CV, cover letter, we also have a transferable skills checklist as well. So that's sitting in there. And we also have our career advice hub. You can get to this when you are looking on the main page at Seek. And we have numerous resources, and this is getting updated every single week. So it's a one destination location for job guidance, CV, interview tips, career planning development, market insights and trends. And for the graduate on the line, we have information specifically for graduates, changing industries. There's numerous roles and so many advice and tips in there, and you can actually go in there and sign up for these updates, and that gets delivered to your inbox monthly. Then we've got Seek Video, so if you take information visually, if you just go to video.seek.co.nz, we have lots of videos in there to help candidates. And then we have how to search smarter on Seek. So when you're on Seek, these are the key things to remember, because we're getting 50 searches per second across ANZ. So this is leading to about 58 million impressions a day. Yeah. So we're getting a lot of data, and we're using this data. Yeah. We're using this data just to really help understand the intent behind your search. So how can you smart search it on the platform? So first of all, it's about making sure you're signed in. So make sure you're signed in to tailor all your results, because if you're not signed in, it's hard for us to kind of track your data and your behavior. So this affects the type of recommendations of roles we put up to you, how we source the roles in terms of ranking. When searching as well, use keywords and job titles that best describe the role you're looking for. So really simplify the keywords and data if you're looking for, technology and things like that as well for keyword search. Our smarter search technology will ensure you're not missing out on those opportunities, but we need you to be logged in with an up-to-date profile and data to really help drive that for us. And you have that capability to go in and save searches and set up searches as well. So again, this is really going to help your recommendations. So three key themes here is making sure you are logged in. That's number one. Sign in. Yep. Make sure that you're using your keywords and you're searching correctly, and then finally set up your alerts. Seek profile as well. So Sharon's already said, make sure your Seek profile is up to date. I just want to give you an idea of what the profile does as well. So the Seek profile, we'll use that to recommend roles to you. So it really helps having it up to date and having a lot of data in there. And we'll pre-fill all your applications as much as we can when you're applying via mobile. We know efficiency is key, but this doesn't mean that you can obviously spray and pray when you're applying, but we can pre-populate as much as we can. It gives you the opportunity to create more than one CV attached to the profile. So you can have up to 10 default CVs. So if you're tailoring roles and tailoring information, you can have different CVs sitting in there, and you control the privacy of that. So it's all about showcasing your skills, experience, and highlights. At the moment, we do have a new feature in profile, and the newest feature now is you can put in your certifications and your qualifications. So Hiris can search that, so make sure that you are going into your profile right now, updating everything, including your qualifications and your licenses, because this is what the hirers will be searching for. If you think of it from a hirer's side, if you set your profile to standard, this means that you can be contacted for opportunities. So my key tip here is make sure your privacy is standard. They're going to search for location. So I've already said, put your location in your CV so we can pass that information, put it in the blurb, so we can put that attached to your profile. Make sure your profile and CV are both up to date. Hirers get really frustrated when they see an up-to-date profile, they grab a CV and it's not up to date. Yeah. It's so frustrating. I work with hiring managers every single day. So please ensure everything's up to date, and ensure within your profile as well as your CV that you are really using all the AI and spoken technology, because hirers mainly will search via keyword. So you need to ensure you're covering that within your profile, so you are giving you the opportunity to be found. Yeah. So they're the key things to think about. Seek hirers, this is what they see. And what they're doing is they are searching through the profile and they're trying to find their perfect candidate. They'll filter based on the information that you give. So the visibility signal, so every time that you're on Seek and you're searching, you're giving us signals. If you're quite active on Seek, we'll say, hey, you're probably a bit more open to being approached. So hirers will be aware of that. You can control that, but the more active you are on the platform, the more likely hirers are to see that you're more open to a conversation. And so this is the key things for you to think in terms of the Seek profile. And
Right.
that's kind of what I just wanted to say from a Seek
Good.
perspective.
Perfect timing. We've got a minute left. So if there's any other questions that come through, we can answer those, or we'll send out the webinar as well for anybody that's interested. I'd like to thank you today, Gemma, for joining us with the picture
No
on
worries.
sort of the Waikato job market and the data. Really, really important. And again, as you said, that's going to be changing. So people just need to keep up to date with that, and we can help with that as well. So thank you everyone for joining us today, and sort of please reach out if you need more information.
Yeah,
Okay.
please feel free to add us to your networks.
Brilliant.
And for those job seekers out there, just keep going and be strong,
Yes, be
and
positive.
be positive. And that's what they're looking for. They're looking for you to be agile, to be positive, and remember that you'll get there eventually.
Yeah,
Okay, so just
brilliant.
really keep going.
Great. Thank you very much, Gemma.
No
Bye-bye.
worries. Have a good rest of your day.
Yep,
Bye.
you too.